Welcome to week 6. I'm Jeff Ericson. He's Jim Coventry. You're watching the Rotowire Fantasy Football channel. It is a tough week. We got some more teams on bye. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the ranks that we might not be in alignment with each other or with the consensus. Jim, let's jump right into it. Talk about quarterbacks. Caleb Williams is flying to London. It's a home game against the London Jaguars. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. So it's not even really a home game. But Caleb Williams playing a little bit better lately. You think he should be higher than where I have him? I have him down at 18. I agree. It might be a little low, but I'll tell you why in a second why I do. But you make the case first.
Yeah, Caleb Williams, it is incredible watching this young man grow. The spatial awareness he's gaining in the pocket. He'll stand there and there's a bunch of bodies all around him and he just keeps looking out and then he knows. All of a sudden he realizes, all right, it's coming. I back out. I find something. He's extending plays. Obviously, he's a million miles, 2 million miles from Patrick Mahomes, but he's doing some of those Mahomes things in the pocket. And now we see him. He looked off a safety to get DJ Moore on a touchdown. He's growing, and this matchup could not be easier. The Bears, although they've been running the ball better the last 2 weeks, they're doing more one-cut runs, which is helping Swift, but Swift is only 3.6 yards per carry last week. That run game's not sustaining. They're going to need to pass the ball to win, and Caleb Williams right now is showing that he's on that level. He has 2 300-yard games in the last 3 weeks.
One of those was against the Colts where he was unimpressive, Jim. So that's why I have a little bit of caution. And the other reason is it's not really about Caleb Williams. I think we're starting to get settled into a phase here where the passing games are working more across the NFL. For instance, Baker Mayfield at the Saints. I would start Baker Mayfield over the Caleb Williams. And I know you like Baker Mayfield. You've chided me, been on me the last 2 weeks.
I'm down on him this week.
Yes, I know. Of course you are. I think the Will Harris injury is a reason to stay optimistic against the Saints. So, but we can talk about that another day. Geno Smith is not a good real life quarterback, but he's been a very productive fantasy quarterback. I think I'd start him over Caleb Williams this week. Daniel Jones against my precious Bengals. I'd start Daniel Jones over Caleb Williams this week because I just think the Bengals can't stop anybody at all. They couldn't stop the Carolina Panthers. They merely outscored them. They didn't stop them. So that's more. It's not an anti-Caleb Williams stance so much as I just think there's a lot of other good alternatives this week. If you want to quibble between 18 through 8, I think that you could make a case. That's where sense. I'm at this week.
No, totally agree with that. It's very fluid in that range. And I just know going on the point, I see him as a QB1, but like you said, mix and match, pick your matchup. If you like Williams, go with him. If you like one of those other guys, go with them. They're all going to be close.
Let's move to running back. Jordan Mason has been a revelation this year if you've had him. One might even say league leader. I won't say winner yet because he probably won't be the starter come like week 10 because Christian McCaffrey, I'm assuming, will be back at some point in November. Nonetheless, he had his first career fumble last week against Arizona, but all in all, a very good player, maybe slightly diminishing returns lately, but he gets the run funnel Seahawks this week, Jim. Why don't you like him? Why are you such a hater, Jim Coventry?
So the Seahawks are middling in fantasy points allowed to running backs, 19th. They actually are getting some players back. Last week they got some players back. They were really unhealthy against the Lions. And so when we take their season run numbers, we're like, this is a run defensive attack. They were without 4 or 5 of their front 7 players in that game against Detroit. That was the wrong week to be without them. Otherwise, this is a decent run defense. And when they played I know different coaching staff, but when they played the 49ers with McCaffrey in the past, McCaffrey has really had to work to get that 100 yards, like 20 something carries. They have done a good job of being aggressive and they know that Shanahan system so well. The players do. Like I said, Mike McDonald's kind of new to that, but that's it. Mason in 2 of the last 3 games, he's putting up good NFL numbers, but not good fantasy numbers. New England, he crushed them. Arizona, 98 total yards, 1 catch. The Rams, 88 total yards, 2 catches for 11 yards. So he's not been a PPR monster. He was great in weeks 1 and 2, but in 2 of the last 3 games, he's kind of ordinary. And I think the 49ers, they're going to have this might be a lower scoring game on a short week than we expect, but I think the Seahawks are underrated defensively.
I think they made Tyrone Tracy look like college version of Tyrone Wheatley last week, over 130 yards rushing. I really think that the Seattle, maybe the personnel getting back this week will help them counter my argument a little bit more. It's also the Thursday night game. I know last week was the past carnival, but more often than not, running backs on Thursday night are a good thing too. That's another reason why I'm still remaining high on Jordan Mason this week. If you like this video, we encourage you to smash that like button, hit subscribe so you can see more videos. You'll know when they get live on our football channel. Moreover, you can check out our content at Rotowire, rotowire.com/try. You can see my value meter rankings. You can see where else you may disagree with me. Please let us know. We will get back to you on that one there. But check them all out, rotowire.com/try. You can see all Jim's work there on the site as well, and all of our amazing football content on the site. Jim, we're going to go no disagreement on tight end, but we have a daily double at wide receiver this week. Let's start off with the Houston Texans. Nico Collins just got placed on IR by the Texans today. He went from day to day to week to IR. Now it's the 4-week IR. It's the IR to return. But hamstring injuries take a while to return. Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson, all should probably get more targets as a result of this.
Yeah, Hutchinson was the direct replacement for Collins last week, played 71% of the snaps. Now, if you remember week 2 when Tank Dell went out, Robert Woods came in and played all the snaps. So it's directly, those are the replacements. So don't get messed up in the Robert Woods thing. The whole point is this. The X receiver will be Hutchinson. He is not Nico Collins. He's not 10 miles from Nico Collins, but he'll function in that role. The defense is probably not going to be too concerned with him. Patriots are a good defense. If the Patriots are really planning this one up, and I know Diggs plays in the slot a lot, they're probably going to make sure to get Christian Gonzalez a bit on him because this Texans passing offense, they put up some yardage, but without Collins, they are really, really going to be compromised here. The offensive line has not been as good as we thought it would be. And I think New England keeps this game kind of muddy. I think it's kind of lower scoring. Joe Mixon, it looks not so good for him. He's not practicing yet. I think this could be a real slugfest here, and I don't think anybody on the Texans offense gets going here, and I think Stephon Diggs is just going to get some short pass in the middle of the field, and that's about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is he's not a deep route guy anymore. And they're going to really miss Collins taking the top off. Tank Dell hasn't been that guy either, by the way. In year one after an injury, I kind of think he's like this year's Tony Pollard in that respect. That we kind of underestimated the long-term effects of the injury. So I see your case there. It's interesting. I wonder if Gonzalez travels. That's the one thing I'm curious to see whether that happens because I do think they may have to lean on Diggs a little bit more in this game. It is kind of tricky thing. And this Texans have been a little out of sorts. Even last week, we saw a 300-yard passing game from CJ Stroud, but it was, if you watch the game, there was that one big play to Collins. I think as soon as Collins left, this was a completely different offense. So I am a little concerned about that. One other point, I have a league where every week I have to decide three receivers for 2 slots. Our Diggs that we talked about, your guy, Chris Godwin, just eating from the slot. And then Brandon Ayuk, who ate against Arizona last week. Every week I've got to make this decision because I got CeeDee Lamb in another wide receiver slot. And I've got a running back often in my flex. So I planned on having all 4 receivers active, but I've had blessed to have better running backs like Jordan Mason, for instance. So this week, who would you go in that spot?
Godwin, because Evans has gotten the touchdowns last week. It's Marshawn Lattimore week. And that's usually a bit problematic for Evans. So I think we're going to see hyper targets in an advantageous slot matchup.
So I've Godwin starting too. So it comes down to Diggs versus Ayuk then. And
oh man. The short week.
First world problems. Yeah.
Well, if you're going to, and I kind of like your idea on the most short weeks being the running game. And if that is the case and you're right about that, then I think you got to fade Ayuk off the big game.
Yeah. All right. One last wide receiver to talk about. Scary Terry McLaurin has been revived. Earlier, we talked about how they weren't connecting. Shockingly enough, they have connected lately. Even last week against the Browns, where a pretty tough, secondary to go up against there. McLaurin still hit for a deep ball, had another intermediate play, didn't get in the end zone, but still, all in all, pretty good day. Going up against a Ravens team that Joe Burrow passed all over last week. You're still a little wary of McLaurin this week, though.
Yes. So I was wrong on McLaurin. I thought that the Browns would create enough problems for the quarterback. They didn't. When they were rushing, they did nothing to hem him in. The other thing is they play a ton of man coverage. They're among the highest rate teams, Cleveland, and McLaurin was in single coverage, which means he was open over the top. And Jaden Daniels has proven he can make that throw all day, every day. The Ravens realized there was one person to worry about. Their run defense will slow down the rushing attack. That's not a problem. They have one guy to worry about in the passing game. It's McLaurin. There will be a safety over the top. They have the film. They will not let him win deep. And if Mclaurin doesn't win deep, we saw week 1, 2 for 17 against the Bucs, 6 for 22 against the Giants. The Ravens have to understand this is an easy fix.
All right, there you have it there. So you're more like probably in the 20s to 30s on Mclaurin then, I assume.
23.
23. All right, there you have it. I currently have Mclaurin at 13.